Afternoon, everyone. I am so excited to be able to share with you all today. My name is Joseph Sothern, and I am an arts educator for MIFAL Arts Academy. Today, we're going to be learning a little bit about some theory and some music notation. So if you get a chance, if you could just run and grab a piece of paper and a pencil real quick, you might want to take some notes down. There might be some opportunities to practice writing some things. But like I said, if you get a chance, if you just grab a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, that would be awesome. So I'm going to give you about 3 seconds to do that. Awesome. All right. So, um, music is such a universal language. It really can speak to anyone. It can speak to all different types of people, different ages, different ethnic backgrounds, different ideologies, different languages. It's really universal. So learning some theory, learning some music notation, in my opinion, helps you to communicate with every other human out there. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now let's see.
Okay, awesome. So, like I said, we are going to do a little theory and notation. Now, with music, just like with any language, you still have building blocks that you work with. So, for instance, the English language, before you can start to write or speak, one of the building blocks of that written language are the letters or the alphabet. So, of course, in English, we have 26 letters, but in music, we have a lot fewer. We only have 7 letters in the musical alphabet. Those letters are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now, in music, I know you're saying, well, I know there are only 7 letters because you just told me, but if there are only 7 letters, how can we have so many different notes? Looking at a piano or looking at other instruments, you can see that there are a lot more notes. So, say for instance, piano has 88 keys, but we only have 7 musical notes. So, how do we turn that 7 into 88? And the way we do that is we use those 7 letters over and over again. So we just keep repeating the cycle. So it'll be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we'll go back to A and start the cycle again. Or if you're going down, you would go G, F, E, D, C, B, A, and then you would go back to G and start the cycle again. Okay. So, like I said, one more time, there are only 7 notes in the musical alphabet. All right. Now, if you want, you can take a moment to write that down if you need to. But we're going to go ahead and move on. Now, with music, you can of course hear music, but at a certain point you'll learn to read music. And like I said, music is still a language to me. It's still communicating. So of course, if it's a language, if you're communicating, you can also write it and read it. So the way you start to write music is before you can even worry about, writing any particular note, you have this. And if you look at your screen, you'll see 5 lines and 4 spaces. This is called a staff. Now, your staff is this staff I have right here is just the standard, most basic generic staff. Okay. It doesn't, right now, you don't know what any of the lines are, you don't know what any of the spaces are, but this is your first building block. This is where you start your writing of music. So, like I said, there are 5 lines. If you see my pointer, I have 1 line at the bottom, moving up, line 2, line 3 is the middle line, line 4, keep going up, and the top line is line 5. So you count your lines from the bottom to the top. So once again, bottom, 2 is above that, 3 is the middle line, 4 is the one above that one, and 5 is your top line. Now, you have lines, but you also have spaces. Now, of course, the spaces are the spaces in between the lines. So you have your first space, which is the bottom one, the second space right above that, the third space above that one, and the fourth space, which is the top space, okay? Now, like I said before, when you just have these 5 lines and 4 spaces, you don't know what any of those lines or those spaces are. So what you end up doing is there will be a symbol that you'll put at the beginning of your staff, and that will determine where your notes are. Now, the most 2 common ways to do that is by creating a treble clef or a bass clef. Now, the treble clef you can see over here on your left, and your bass clef is over here on your right. Now, of course, they look different because they tell you different pieces of information. Now, normally the treble clef will give you notes that are higher on in the musical in any particular musical range. So your treble clef will generally be your higher notes, and your bass clef will generally be your lower notes. Now, as you can see, like I said, the symbols are different. And now we're going to learn a little bit about the marker here. Okay. When you are looking at a treble clef, it kind of looks kind of fancy. There's some swirls and a dot and everything. Now, what the treble clef indicates, the treble clef is marking this second line. Okay, the treble clef symbol is marking the second line. So if you notice, you start with your dot here, you go up, you go around, but you spiral around this second line. And even if you pay attention, that spiral and the part where you went up kind of almost makes like a little bullseye, almost like a target mark right on that second line. Now, that second line, it lets you know what that note is. And I'm going to go to the next slide so that you can see. All right, so the second line is G. So if you look at your lines, you have E, G, B, D, and F. And once again, you know that that second line is G because your treble clef is marking that second line. Okay, now the treble clef is also called sometimes the G clef because it lets you know where the G is. And in fact, the symbol, the treble clef symbol itself is actually just a fancy G. If you kind of think about it, you can kind of mark right there and it kind of creates that G sign. So once again, your lines, you have E, G, B, D, and F. Now, I know you noticed that there are some words under there. Now, one easy way to remember the order of those notes is to think every good boy does fine. Once again, that's every good boy does fine. Now, that's going to be your line. So your first line is E. Your second line is G, because once again, your treble clef lets you know. Your third line is B. Your fourth line is D. And your fifth line is F. So no matter what type of music you're looking at, as long as you are looking at a treble clef or a treble clef on your staff, the first line, the order of those notes will always be the same. It will always be E, G, B, D, and F. Now, like I said before, you have lines and you have spaces. So if you look at the spaces, sorry, skipping ahead on me. All right, if you look at your spaces, the spaces just simply spell out the word face. So your bottom space is F, Your second space is A. Your third space is C. And your fourth space is E. Okay? So once again, that just spells out the word face. F-A-C-E. Face. Okay? So those are your lines and your spaces. I'm going to slide back so I can see you. All right. Now, we talked about the treble clef a little bit, and we talked about how we talked about what those notes are on the treble clef. So now what I want to do is I want to teach you how to draw a treble clef. Second line. Okay? I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure you can see. And it also gives you a little bit of a little opportunity to practice with me one more time. Okay? So we're going to do it again. So we're going to start with our dot. Fill that in. You can see. Fill that in. You're going to go up, go all the way past the fifth line. You're going to come around, cross at the fourth line, and spiral around the second line. Okay? So I just showed you how to draw a treble clef. And like I said, with this being the treble clef, that spiral, even notice that I said spiral around that second line, because that tells you what that second line is. That second line, once again, being a G note, okay? Okay, so you all can see it again, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so with your, I'm going to darken the lines again just to make sure that they're easier to see. So actually start at the bottom. So you have your first line. You have your second line. You have your third line. You have your fourth line. And you have your fifth line. Now, like I said, we're going to learn how to draw a bass clef this time. Now, just like with the treble clef, you started with your dot, correct? With your bass clef, you're going to start with a dot again. So we're going to count to the fourth line. 1, 2, 3, 4. From the fourth line, we're going to make a dot. And we're going to swoop it around. Once we do that, then we make a little dot here and a dot there. Okay, that's your bass clef. So like I said before, I wasn't sure if I don't think I shared my screen the last time. But with the dots, if you think about it, there's a dot here on that fourth line, and you have a dot above the fourth line and a dot below the fourth line. So all of this is pointing to the fourth line. That's how you know that that's an F, okay? So once again, let's try to draw another bass clef. So once again, if you have your paper, if you have your pencil or pen, you can go ahead and draw your 5 lines and have your 4 spaces there. And we can draw another bass clef, okay? So we're going to go to the fourth line again. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to make a dot. And we're going to swoop around. Almost think like it's half of a heart. So it's almost like the right side of a heart, okay? That's what your swoop is going to kind of look like. And then once again, you put your dot above the fourth line and below the fourth line. And that's your bass clef. One more time, just for practice, and just so I can talk you through it again. So you count to the fourth line. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll make your dot. And you'll do your swoop, which I like to think looks like the right side of a heart, okay? swoop around, and stop. And then we still have two more things to do. We do our dot above the fourth line and our dot below the fourth line. All right. So we just went through a treble clef, and I've also just taught you how to draw a bass clef. Now I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I was trying to show you earlier. But the lines are G, B, D, F, and A. So good boys deserve fudge always. So your G is on the first line, B is on the second line, D is on the third line, F is on the fourth line, and A is on your fifth or your top line. Now, like I said, when you put them all together, you have what is called the grand staff. And now you should be able to see it. So with the grand staff, you have your treble clef on top and your bass clef on the bottom. And over to the left is the little bracket that I was telling you about that actually ties those two staves together. And that's how you get your grand staff. Now, if you notice, I said that there were 5 lines and 4 spaces for each clef, right? But when we put these together, there's some notes in between here, right? Everybody see that? Now, those notes, this note right here, right in the middle on this little line, that's called the ledger line. This note right here in the middle, that is called middle C. Now, I know a lot of people have heard the term middle C, but now if you haven't seen it, now you've actually gotten a chance to see a middle C. This is middle C right here, okay? Now, the reason that's a C is because whether you start from the treble clef and work down or start from the bass clef and work up, you'll realize that that note right there will be C. So if we start from the treble clef, that bottom line is E, right? So remember, because it's every good boy does fine, right? So if that's E, if we go down, we have D, and then if we go down again, we have C. So if we go down, we have E, D, C. Now, if we start from the bass clef, that top line being good boys deserve fudge always. If we start at A, we have A, B, C. So either way, that note right in the middle, that is a C. So once again, that's why it's called middle C, okay? Now, remember one of the first things I said was that we only have 7 letters in the musical alphabet, right? Now, on the page, we have way more than 7 dots. But remember, I said they just repeat over and over and over and over again. So if we look down, starting from the bottom right here, we have, what's that bottom line, everybody? Anybody remember? What's that bottom line? G. I'm guessing everybody said G with me. So that bottom line is G. So we have going up, not skipping any lines, not skipping any spaces, just working our way up. We have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and we know we're right because that's the 4th line. And remember, the bass clef, the 4th line lets us know that that's F. Then from F, we go to G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So just in the grand staff, you've gotten a chance to see that the note names, the actual letters, repeat. So it's just a never-ending cycle, whether it's going up or going down. We always end up reusing the same letters over and over again, okay? So with that being said, I just did a little bit of notation with you, a little bit of theory. If you like what you saw, if you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in having more knowledge with your music theory and notation, you can always look up MIFAL Arts Academy. You can check us out on Facebook, on Instagram. You can Google us. You can check out our website. But I hope you enjoyed our class, and I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Lavender.
Awesome. Thank you so very much, Mr. Southern. So very much. We goes higher and
problem.
higher. We are so excited. And even in the comments, if you have something that you wanted to ask or say to Mr. Southern, please feel free. We've got a few people who are saying thank you. We saw some folks getting involved in the lesson. And so we are very grateful to be able to share this great gem of a teacher, Mr. Southern. Mr. Southern doesn't only teach theory, he also teaches piano. He gives individual lessons, and he can do so many other things, just like as we're finding out from all of our incredible staff. We are multi-talented. And so chances are, if you're interested in it, we've got something for it. So let us know what you're looking for. I hope you'll come back and join us this afternoon at 5:30. And we hope you're ready to dance because Miss Nia is going to show us a little bit about modern dance. So make sure you come right back to the same link, share, share, share. Again, thank you everybody for coming in and for being a part, even our friends on Facebook Live. And we are looking forward to taking it up another level at 5:30. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.